So tonight's Bulls versus Hornets matchup featured two teams on different sides of the streak spectrum. The Bulls come in after their victories earlier in the week against Dallas and Houston respectively, winners of two in a row seeking their third consecutive win. Meanwhile, the Hornets, losers of their last three games, been a little while since they've tasted victory, almost a whole week and a half I believe it's been. So both teams trying to look to get a win, the Hornets to get back on the right side of things, the Bulls to continue the little bit of momentum they built up earlier in the week. And for the Bulls, they were coming into this matchup tonight without Wendell Carter Jr. I believe he was out with a quad contusion, if I'm not mistaken, which meant Daniel Gafford was going to end up in the starting lineup, and that had me a little excited. I was excited to see how he might take advantage of the opportunity and maybe prove that he should get the starting opportunity more going forward or more playing time at the 5, and he only, frankly, had an adequate game, 7.6 rebounds. It was almost like at moments he was trying to do too much. But the Bulls, in this matchup tonight, they came out, shot well in the first quarter. They were up 30-29 after one. Levine had 6, White and Markkanen had 5 each, but they were 12 of 22 from the field. So got off again to a good start after a few days off. You worry about this for a Bulls team. You know, a young team like this, 3 days off, come back, how are you going to show up? And similarly for the Hornets, they had almost, 5 days off before this game? That's a lot of rest. That's a lot of time for rust to set in, and it certainly looked like they had a little bit of rust in the first half. In the first quarter, you had Devontae Graham leading the way with 11 points. The Bulls were having some trouble with him. Gordon Hayward chipped in 7. But in the second quarter, the Bulls, good shooting continued, and they actually did a little bit better. Ended up at the half with a 61-53 lead. You had Zach LaVine with 15 points on 6 of 7 shooting. A really easy, smooth first half performance for Zach for sure. Lauri Markkanen with a good first half as well, 13 points on 6 of 10 shooting. So a good omen on the road for the Bulls that two of your featured prominent players are in double figures in the first half and efficient from the field. Like, they were doing well. The one thing that concerned me, even though they were up 8 at the half, was that Devontae Graham was continuing to light him up. He had 22 at halftime. I'm sitting there wondering, okay, are they going to give up 35 or 40 to this guy, and then maybe somebody like Hayward gets going, or maybe somebody else, that all of a sudden you're going to have some trouble here. Gordon Hayward had 10 points and P.J. Washington had 8, but it was sure looking like even at halftime, like, I can't lie, like, I felt a good bit of confidence that the Bulls are going to win this game. That while I don't think the Bulls are all that particularly great by any stretch of the imagination, they're a borderline, it looks like right now, borderline playoff team in the East. Somewhere that can finish, team that can finish between the 7th seed and finishing in the 11th spot in the East. Whereas the Hornets, I have no real confidence in them whatsoever. I will say I was excited to get the chance to watch LaMelo Ball, for the first time for a full game tonight, and he was okay. Like, you can see with LaMelo that he's got alpha to him. You see those flashes, those bit moments where you can see that he's got some big-time potential. But you can also see that there's some real recklessness and OC to his game. You can see that, like the 1-3 he had from the top of the key, and he hit the side of the he hit the frickin' backboard, no rim. Like, that was bad. But his floater is kind of unconventional as it is effective. But really good court vision, great passer, an unselfish guy that's not just looking to only jack up his own shot, which admittedly I thought was a little bit of concern about for him coming into the draft. I like the upside and the potential that I see. I don't know if I like the fact that he's only getting 16, 18 minutes a game, 20 minutes a game. Like, I would like to see him get a little more run and a little more tick. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like, he could sit there and try to win some games now with the Terry Roziers of the worlds and the Devontae Grahams of the worlds and being dumb dicks and giving Gordon Hayward $30 million a year. But the only way your franchise is going to be relevant, the only way your franchise ever really has a chance to become a contender, is this LaMelo Ball kid's got to develop, and he's got to become that dude. And playing him in kind of a second-tier role just isn't going to get it done. I know it's still very, very early in his career, obviously. You're talking about gain 15 for the Hornets? But I wanted to see a little bit more out of him. And as far as Patrick Williams for the Bulls, an interesting matchup here to me with the number 3 and number 4 overall picks in the draft. I just worry sometimes that Patrick Williams gets lost in the shuffle. Like tonight, I think he had, 4 points? Like he certainly didn't do much that I can remember. Some of the flaws or concerns I have about his game, I think, manifested a little bit more tonight. He's got a slow, kind of lumbering release on his jump shot, which takes a while for him to get into that motion, which, if he gets a hand in his face, is going to lead to some bad misses. I love the arc that he gets on his shot, but he had the one really spectacular dunk off the alley-oop. Like, that's what you want to see more. I thought you saw some moments where his lack of lateral athleticism to be able to guard ones and twos kind of came into play a little bit. He's more of a guy you want guarding threes and fours on the perimeter than ones and twos. But both guys that I would like to see get a little more run as kind of more of a focal point of their team's offense the rest of the season. So going into the second half, like I said, I felt pretty confident that the Bulls were going to have enough to beat the Hornets, because I just wasn't liking what I seen out of Charlotte, and I'm feeling, hey, the Bulls have won 2 in a row. Maybe this is an example of they're facing a bad opponent, so they'll learn some of the lessons from some of the other losses they've had so far this year. They'll find a way to get it done. Well, they came out and had a strong third quarter. They ended up being up 95-83 after 3. And big reason for it, as it was for the first 3 quarters in general, the Hornets just shooting themselves in the damn foot too much. 20 turnovers through 3 quarters. Now, in spite of that, Gordon Hayward certainly came to life in the third. He had 17 third-quarter points. But even though Gordon Hayward started getting into a rhythm and he started to hit some shots, problem is you're turning the ball over too much. You just kept playing kind of sloppy and loose with the ball. And even a team like the Bulls is going to be able to eventually capitalize on that. And as we got into the fourth quarter, credit to the Hornets for making it a close game. They were within 6, I think, with about 4 minutes left to go, if I remember correctly. But they just didn't have enough tonight. They didn't shoot the ball well enough. They didn't defend well enough tonight. They didn't protect the ball well enough tonight. And as a result, the Bulls won relatively comfortably at the end of it, 123-110. For Chicago, Zach LaVine had a smooth night. Shot well from the field, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. I like seeing this type of Zach LaVine, a guy that can very easily get into his offense, who can also create and facilitate for others when he chooses to. I don't like the kind of ball vacuum Zach. So we get some of both sometimes. And sometimes the ball vacuum Zach, when he's really hot, like, you can't really say much. Except when he's in the clutch and he's throwing up bricks. But really good performance tonight. And again, these are the types of performances that I'd like this team to focus on more, is getting better ball movement, moving better without the basketball. A little less pound, 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 step back, jack up a 3, hope it goes in. The Kobe White offense, basically. The finisher ended up with 23 points. Good performance for him. Kobe White and Garrett Temple each added 15, and Otto Porter Jr. had 13. Good performance for the Bulls bench here in this game. For the Hornets, Gordon Hayward ultimately led the way for them with 34. That means that he had 24 points in the second half. Certainly that big third quarter, he came up with 17, but just didn't have enough in the fourth quarter. Devontae Graham finished with 24, which is an okay performance, but when you realize the fact that he had 22 at half and only finished with 24, that means he really wasn't much of a factor in the second half. And then P.J. Washington kicked in 16 for the Hornets. The keys to victory here for the Bulls tonight, I felt like 15 threes that they hit compared to Charlotte's 7, and shooting them at a higher clip certainly isn't going to hurt matters whatsoever. And then the very good ball movement. I was alluding to it with Zach LaVine when you talk about the 9 assists. And, he had Satoransky back in the lineup, which certainly I think helps in terms of having somebody that has a facilitation mindset and is able to get the Bulls into their offense, and he's able to dribble drive, and he's able to penetrate, kick out, and get ball movement going. 33 assists on 49 made field goals. So they had a good night moving the basketball, being unselfish, and I hope they carry that type of philosophy over more in the weeks to come, because when they play this unselfish type of basketball and they move the ball and they move without the ball, like, this Bulls team could cause some problems. It'll get easier shots for Lowry. It'll get easier shots for Zach. It'll get easier shots for Kobe White and for Patrick Williams, Otto, you name it. Move the ball. Move without the ball. Don't just sit there and pound, 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 step back, travel, jack up 3, hope it doesn't brick. To me, personally, it's a much more interesting and more effective, more importantly, style of basketball. But the Bulls Winners tonight, 123 to 110. Their third straight win. And their reward for that third straight win is having to face off against the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers tomorrow night at 9 Eastern. Yee-haw! Yeah. But if you watch tonight's Bulls game, let me know what you think of the performance. Let me know what you've been thinking so far about Patrick Williams in his rookie year. What you want to see the Bulls do to kind of keep this momentum up from this 3-game winning streak. And if you have any thoughts on the Hornets, like, what do you think about Gordon Hayward? He gets all this money. He's going to score all these points, but his team's not going to be any good. And do you think that LaMelo Ball has a big, bright future? Do you think he could be a franchise type of point guard, or do you think he's just a slightly better version of his brother, a slightly worse version of his brother Lonzo? Easy for me to say. That's what happens when I'm up late at night. So anyways, make sure you smash that subscribe button if you enjoyed my recap and you want to see me recap all the other Bulls games this season. Going strong so far. We're going to keep it that way. And make sure you follow me on Twitter so that way we can talk Bulls, we can talk about other sports and life things in general. All right, thanks. Go Bulls!